Hi, this is Jeremy Bryden for Core S Squared Software Solutions. Today we'll be talking about a very simple minimalistic HTTP server that I implemented for OS X and Unix-like operating systems. So you can see in front of you I have a browser open, Google's Chrome, that's currently directed to localhost colon 8080. So what this means is I'm telling the browser to go to my own computer's IP address and try to connect to port 8080. When I refresh though, you'll see nothing happens. That's because the server isn't running. All I have to do is go ahead and execute the server, pull up the little console to give me some debugging information, and run back to the browser, hit refresh, and bam. I'm right in front of my own computer's web browser, connected to my own computer server. Kind of a neat little concept, but basically this server is just a proof of concept as well as a way for me to learn how servers work. So internally, what's going on is all I do is I broadcast my file systems directories as well as files. So for example, if I go to /users/jbryden/documents, and I could continue forward through a couple of different directories to pull up some files. Now, what's interesting, and something that I learned about this kind of technology that I didn't know before, is that when you give a file through a web server, you actually don't give it as plain text. You have to append something called a MIME type, or kind of like the media file type. So if I were to click a README file, such as readme.txt, it does dump it as plain text. But if I were to try to access a more complex data type, such as, let me try to pull up some images here. So I'll click textures. If I try to open up this PNG or JPEG, if I were to open it up as a plain text file, it would give me all of the JPEG meta information as well as the binary information for the actual image itself. Completely useless. Instead, what I want to do is have the server tell the browser that we're attempting to load up a texture, specifically a JPEG texture, so that it knows to interpret the data differently. In my source code, which is only two files, which is about 400 lines of code, I have a main application entry point that just does a while loop and it keeps asking the operating system if there's anyone that's attempted to connect to this socket. After that, the server goes ahead and parses any requests. It matches the correct data type up top by looking at the extensions of the files. A more correct implementation would be to write my own file format checker. So even though if it's a JPEG image without the JPEG extension, it'd be nice if I could parse it and then tell the client who's trying to connect and request that file that it is actually a JPEG file. There's some other functions associated with correctly formatting and parsing the HTTP header. Right now, this code only parses HTTP 1.1, and it's a great example to see how to manipulate strings in the C language without using any sort of advanced C++ features. I'll go ahead and post this code online on my server at cores2.com, so that way the public may view and modify it in any which way they want. This might be useful for installing it on a small embedded system if you're trying to create a mobile server, or I might start looking into putting this on an Arduino, a small robotics microcontroller. So this is Jeremy Bryden for Core Squared. I hope this helped.